Fireman ready.
Well, we're at Calvin Castine's house, the home of Hometown Cable on the Ridge Road in Champlain, during the noon hour on January 8th in Calvin. When's the last time on January 8th you could look out the window and see bare ground out there? Been a while, huh?
It comes, we get that January
January
thaw
thaw
every year.
one time or another.
10 years ago, though, it wasn't a January thaw. It was, that was the morning that everybody woke up to the disaster of, we listened to the trees break overnight on the 7th and went to bed and listened to that all night and wondered what we'd see in the morning. And
whether we'd even be around in the morning.
and we went to bed without any power on and so on. So, I take this 54-degree weather.
It's in the mid-50s today, and we love it. As I was driving up here to meet with Calvin to do a little retrospect on the programs we did during 2007, I looked out and I said, this is unbelievable. Then I remembered, January thaw from time to time in the past, and it does happen, and it has happened, and even once in a while in late December we'll get a bit of a thaw for a few days. But guess what? Winter's not finished yet.
No, we've got lots of winter left, and you must have had some January flooding at your house.
We've had January flooding and February flooding and March flooding and spring and fall flooding, but this year it looks good. The ice has gone out gradually.
Yeah.
Kay and I cheer every time we get up and see another chunk of ice going down the river.
Yeah, but there's more ice coming. A year ago, we had very little cold weather, and I remember getting a haircut about this time of the year, early January, and the barber in Champlain saying, well, there won't be any ice jams and floods in Champlain this year.
And look what happened.
And then in the middle of March.
Well, look at the snow didn't come until after that.
Right.
It was completely dry.
And we got that big Valentine's Day blizzard last year, and so
You pays your money and you takes your choice in this North Country, but it's nice to see slices of sunshine in January nonetheless. And what we've done is come up here and decided, as always, to grab Calvin's very full calendar from 2007. And what blows my mind, Cal, is to think how many fun shows we do in the course of a year, and the fact that you and I have done this going on 11 years, and that you did it many years before that. So
it's a thing that we have to enjoy what we're doing, because if we did it for the money, we wouldn't be doing this, obviously. But it's something you and I both feel strongly about. And when Bob Venn died in '97, and on June 25th, I hadn't given any thought to what I'd do with the What's Going On Here program, because Bob was only 68, about to turn 69, and I wasn't expecting him to leave that suddenly, and he unfortunately did. So that's when I asked you, someone who'd just gotten out of the radio business, if you'd be interested in doing this.
If it hadn't been for Woodman of the world, we would never have known each other, probably.
Probably. We might have bumped into each other along the way, but the Woodman helped us get to know each other, and it's been fun.
It's been absolutely fun, and Calvin is like I am. We have a great passion for the area in which we live and for the people here. And everybody has a story, and every time I'll meet somebody in a grocery store and they start telling me their story, I say, hold that thought, we'll get to your place. And so we've got several hanging. This 2008 could be a very good year, too, by the looks of things, right?
Yep. We've got a couple on the horizon that I just haven't sat down and made all the calls necessary. These don't just happen. We got to set them up and work your schedule and my schedule and our subjects' schedules around to make sure that we.
And once in a while we'll make
weather.
And the weather is once in a while we'll make all the arrangements, and then at the last moment the person will get either wet feet or a bad cold or leave the area or something, and what we thought was a great program will fall through. That's happened a couple of times in the last few weeks, but we'll prevail.
Yeah.
How many shows did we do? Did you count them up in 2007?
I don't know how many we did in 2007. We probably did less than 50, because we are right now up to date on what we're showing, and what I'm doing is grabbing my programming calendar, not my taping calendar, because it's easier to keep track of that, because every Sunday up here in the Northern Tier is our show.
Aha.
Or if I took the taping calendar, well, it might be a Monday and a Tuesday and a Wednesday one week, and then nothing for a couple weeks, and so.
That's a good thing to explain to people how it, because we're at two different cable areas. You're in Time Warner up here in Champlain, and we're with Charter down in the Plattsburgh area. Explain how the programs are aired on these two channels.
Well, they're actually aired right now on 3 channels.
3 channels.
And hopefully we'll get back on in Willsboro. I know Herb Longwear wants us. It's just a matter of us getting an underwriter that will make it worthwhile to make up that extra copy to send down there every week. And maybe someday we'll find an underwriter that would help us to get into the Lake Placid Tri-Lakes area.
We'd love to do that.
But I just don't have enough hours in the day as it is to keep up. What we do is up here in the northern tier of Clinton County, I lease the channel. I have since 1986. Started doing programming in '83 as a volunteer weekly program. Got enough comments on the show that decided to do it for a living. Started doing it in '86. Leased the channel.
Put quotes around that for a living, will you?
Yeah, yeah. And basically, the folks, the good folks up in the northern tier, are making it possible for the people in Plattsburgh and Channel 15 and the people in the Franklin County on Channel 30 to watch this, because up here in the northern tier, as the people who are watching this on Channel 24 know, we're on every day with a 3-hour DVD that plays continuously. I put it on, try to switch it around 11, and then it just automatically, without any rewinding like the old videotapes, it just automatically goes from the end of that 3 hours right into the start of the others, and it's seamless. So that 3-hour DVD plays continuously for a 24-hour period. And so I have to put that program together with commercials and with the list of the people who send in viewer support, without which we won't be able to exist, because there's just not enough advertisers, not enough time for me to go out and make ads and do all the stuff that should be done if you're going to really look to push ads. And I've never done this looking as a way to push ads. I've always done this as a way to provide programming, and the ads are necessary to provide that programming, but it also allows these businesses up here in the northern tier to get their message out in a format that is popular with the people, because people are watching their kid on a stage, and then there comes that ad for whoever, and so people are supporting the coverage of that. So most of the programming that I have on in a week's time is sports. We do a couple of local municipal board meetings, and things that go on at the school, a school play or a concert or whatever. We cover all that. I cover that. My brother Sam covers a lot of stuff at Shazy for me as a volunteer. And for instance, tonight, my wife Judy will grab the camera and go to the Champlain Town Board meeting, because I'm going to be covering some volleyball. So that's the program. But then on the weekends, we run What's Going On here. On Saturday and on Sunday, we run the Our Little Corner program. And up here, as we said, it's underwritten by the advertisers and by the viewer support. And then 5 tapes a week are provided to the Plattsburgh Channel 15 area. And for the most part, I lead off with our older programs. Then I put on, if time allows, a sporting event from the area, usually a high school sport or one of the adult leagues or whatever. And that fills up the 2-hour and 45-minute tape. And it requires me to besides putting together a 3-hour tape every day up here, to provide a 2-hour and 45-minute tape to bring to Plattsburgh. So it takes the better part of a full day to do that, and then transport this to our buddy Goose at Charter, and then come back with the old ones that they've shown.
Now we can explain to people that Goose delivers those tapes to Channel 57, the public television station,
yeah.
And they're the ones whose responsibility it is now to get our program scheduled at the right time and the right date. And public access, and maybe people don't understand, there's still confusion among many of our viewers as to the difference between public television and public access. This is public access.
Right. And this is available only on cable. It's not available on a satellite dish. It's not available over the air. So it's cable access. And the fact that Channel 57 or Mountain Lake is putting these tapes on is incidental. It has they have nothing to do with our programming. We have nothing to do with them, except that Charter has.
It's an important point.
Charter has contracted with them, and they actually run the machines down there. Now, when I'm done with those tapes at Plattsburgh, after I pick them up from Goose, I wait till I've got 30 or 40 of them, and I bring those to Malone, because again, it's a drive to Malone, and I bring them down there, put them in the order that I like them shown, and Wendy Reveley down there faithfully puts them in, and usually even if she's on vacation, she'll try to make sure that the person who's there taking her place puts them in faithfully. So that's how they get down there. But we look at viewer support. In the past 2 years, we've gotten 0 out of the people watching us in Franklin County.
And you know, it's too bad, because I know and you know that there
Well,
are faithful listeners.
Because you viewers, yeah.
Yeah.
You still say listeners even after 35 years.
Yeah, listeners and viewers.
Because every time you go to Malone,
Yeah. Every time I go to Malone, people assail me with the fact, watch your show last week. They explain the whole show, so you know they watched it all. And I never missed the opportunity to say it's viewer support.
yeah,
And, you know, you've put an addendum on the program, or actually on the beginning and end for a while, saying, you know, the program has to get some support from the viewers. We highlight the businesses that support us, underwrite it, if you will. There's certain limitations to how much we can do by way of promoting the businesses that support us, but we can mention names of people and businesses who do support us. And over the last year, a few extra people have joined the club, if you will, the Hometown Cable Club, and send their little checks from time to time. But that's what we need more of. We don't do drives.
no.
We can't do pledge drives. You know, there's not enough time to spend a lot of time begging people for money, but we have to underline the fact that this is not a staff of thousands. Even though you have some family members who help you out with a camera every now and again, for the most part, it's Calvin Castine that does the bit and me that carries the microphone around from time to time. So in order to, now with a tremendous expense of gasoline to travel from place to place.
So obviously, my time and the gas to bring these to Malone, I've gotten nothing in return.
Yeah, just to let people know, for those people who are watching this program in Malone, how can they support you if they want to, Calvin?
Well, the address is up there every time the program is on, 1477 Ridge Road, Champlain, New York, 12919. I've never sent any money back because it was not enough. Now, I've had contributions of $3 on up to hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So whatever people can afford, whatever they feel it's worth, that's what we need. As far as Plattsburgh goes, I don't think in the course of the year that the contributions that I've gotten out of Plattsburgh, outside of the people who helped to underwrite our little corner program, I don't think I've made enough to pay for the gas to run back and forth to Plattsburgh, let alone justifying spending a day putting those tapes together.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know. I just had somebody from Plattsburgh, a prominent businessman who has been featured on this program several times, and he asked me about it, and I explained that, why that thing was on there, saying if we don't get some support, the program might be pulled off the air, because let's face it, it's kind of stupid of me to keep doing this.
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
We've got some underwriting for the weekly show of our little corner, so I could just bring down one tape a week, play it on the weekends, and Monday through Thursday, but nothing on. But I think, I like what we've done. I like we don't do this before the money. We do this because we think the programming is important. We think the programming is of interest to the community. But anyway, this person ended up sending me $10. And, I cashed the check. I was grateful for it.
Yeah.
But I expected, you know, that here's somebody who spoke up and said, you know, what can we do to keep this programming on? And it takes a lot of those $10 to make this happen. So
Yeah.
today, as I went to one of the local restaurants, and one of the people there who has another business said, "Here's from our other business," and handed me a contribution, and that happens up here in the Northern Tier fairly frequently. You know, I get checks in the mail from the viewers and nice little notes, and a lot of people meet me out somewhere taping and hand in a contribution. So that's another way to do it if you forget to send in that check.
Yeah, well, it's okay for us to make that nice little appeal at the beginning here, because I think it's important for people to know that this is not the government subsidized
No, it's not, and
program.
It's not subsidized by the cable companies. I think people think that you get cable and you're paying for this. Well, that's not true. Like I said, I lease the channel up here. Time Warner doesn't pay me. They have a nice, you know, I'm not complaining about my lease agreement. I'm very happy with it. But they don't pay me. I have to pay them every month. And that's how that Channel 24 is on. As far as Channel 15 in Plattsburgh, Channel 30 in Malone, there can be no advertising content on those programs. So it has to be public and no advertising. So anybody can put a program on, as long as it meets the decency standards and so on. But to do this on a regular basis, you know, there aren't that many people that are foolish enough to do it without making some kind of an income out of it. So as far as Malone and Plattsburgh, it's you know, it's voluntary contributions that would make it worth our efforts to keep doing this. Foxy does a lot of programming too, but he's North Country Cable Network. He's independent of what we do, and Foxy's kind enough when he has something that he knows would appeal to the people up here, he'll send it up here, and I'll show it on 24. And once in a while, if I figure it might be of interest to people in Malone, I'll tack it onto a program and bring it to Malone. So
Well, the public access has changed a little bit down through the years. There are more different kinds of programming now. In some areas, you'll see an awful lot of religious programming on public access in the bigger cities, and some really strange programming some places.
in the big cities, yes.
But here in our general region, it's people like Foxy and you and I that have taken on the responsibility of producing some what we think is some pretty darn good programming. And certainly we've, over the years, not to mention 2007, we've chronicled a lot of the major events here in the North Country, including the ice storm, because we did talk about it for a long time and still do.
Yeah, yeah.
So we hope to do it again in 2008.
Yeah.
And
there we are.
And here we are again talking about 2007. What was the first thing we did?
Well, the first thing I showed in 2007 that we had done in 2006 actually, and I showed it on the 31st of December, and it ran in the morning of January 1st. So I'll include that because it's such a fun show to do. And that was the Adirondack Scenic Railroad up between Lake Placid and Saranac Lake.
Is it that long ago already?
Well, yeah, it was a year and a couple months. I think we did it in October.
And I was just talking to somebody about that yesterday, because we have way more railroad buffs around here than I ever dreamed. How many railroad programs have we done over the last 10 or 11 years?
I don't know. We've done several this year, and they're always fun to do, and we're obviously going to keep doing them until we run out of places to go.
Talk about a volunteer outfit. That Adirondack Railroad is just that. I mean, from the engineers on the train to the people who take the tickets and so on, and it's a pleasant experience. And I've been on several similar railroads around the country, and it's a kick, isn't it?
Yep. And railroads are definitely a hot item in our area. We know Larry Marnes is restoring that Rutland station there in the Moors, but he's done a great job there. But Rouse's Point, there's a group there that's working very hard on the old D&H station. In fact, I went by there today, and there was some kind of a big claw moving stuff around.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, so Rouse's Point is doing that, and then Lion Mountain.
Lion Mountain, with their museum.
Yeah, they're going to have a mining museum, but it's going to be in a railroad station, and I'm sure it'll include some railroad information.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, So that was the first thing that I showed technically in January of 2007. And then we did a show that I think is one of the ones that highlights what we have to offer around here. We did the CVPH emergency response to that tragic bus accident, a Greyhound bus accident on the Northway. That if not for the aptitude, the talents of the people at CVPH, could have been a lot worse.
They trained for these kinds of things. They just finished a training when that occurred. It was a great experience for us always, and it makes me feel more secure every time we go down there and meet the professionals. Wonderful people, and we try to do several shows a year at CVPH if we can.
Mm-hmm.
So that was terrific, especially in light of the fact that we're doing this on January 8th, 2008, and there was just a bus just went off the Northway a couple of days ago. Fortunately, there weren't serious injuries, but there could have been. And that could happen anytime. You know, there's a lot of conversation about cell phones and cell towers along the Northway, etc. So that was a good show.
Yeah, and there was just an accident within the last couple of days out.
Western part, horrible, where the top got ripped right off the bus, and 6 people were killed, etc., etc., etc.
It's amazing only 6 people died in that accident.
When you look at it, you couldn't tell it was a bus.
No, yeah, it's just and with the Northway here, and some of those drops are quite large, so something like that could certainly happen again.
This is a rural area, but that is a main thoroughfare.
Mm-hmm.
You know, connecting Canada with all the way down to Albany and then down to New York City, and a lot of important stuff, including hazardous materials, comes up through there. So it requires a lot of readiness on a lot of parts.
Yeah. The next thing we showed on January 14th was a return trip to Greymont, which is Plattsburgh Quarries, as we probably commonly refer to it. But that's also fun. We've only done 2 shows there, but they're fun. They're interesting to watch.
Little kids and big kids like me enjoy equipment, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
And it's always so much fun to talk to bright people, get in some of the new ventures that they're into, with that stonework out in Keysville, and to see what that does. And it's an opportunity for our viewers to see something that they probably would never have an opportunity to see ever.
You can't just wander in there.
Yeah, they do an occasional school tour, but
yeah,
most adults would never know unless they know somebody that drives truck or hauls asphalt or something, you know.
Yeah,
so that was great.
Yeah, and then there's a show that we did on the Plattsburgh idea with Judge Penny Clute, and this is the show we're going to do a follow-up on, not with Judge Clute, but I've been gathering more material on the Plattsburgh idea, and we will be doing a follow-up on that probably very shortly. I had hoped, in fact, to be doing it this week, but I got one newspaper from 1916 that I'm still awaiting to arrive that I was able to purchase recently. So
it's a wonderful display to let people know they just walk into the city court building as you're traveling around one side of the oval. You go in the base and keep right around the oval, and the first major building is where city court is located, and it's right there on the walls. Beautiful job they did.
Yeah. So, and then the Plattsburgh idea is such a important part, and as more I've read about it, you realize what a factor it played in World War I and our preparedness for World War I. And who knows if we hadn't prevailed in World War I, and who knows if we would have without the Plattsburgh idea, which was a predecessor to ROTC. And
absolutely.
But again, we'll get into that in a future program. Next up was a tour we took of the Model Railroad and Hobby Show, and that was fun.
Another railroad show.
Yeah.
And I talked to Dave Brown often, and many other people who are into railroading and model railroading, and there'll be much more to talk about in the future because it's a subject that's interesting to just about everybody.
Yeah, and it was just more than just model railroads in there. I remember our buddy Asa Dar was there with some stuff. And,
yes.
And Asa, we got
his name right sometimes, huh?
Yeah, got to thank him. He gave each of us a very nice little.
Isn't that neat? And I hope he did very well at Christmas time because 2007 is the year of the lead that showed up in all the toys, and Asa makes these toys, and that was a pretty good. It looked like me. I don't know if it looked like you.
Well,
these little wooden figurines.
He had you taller than me. So
no, something wrong with that picture. He forgot I was fatter, not taller. All right, that was fun.
Okay, another one we did with Dale Brown. We went out to the point of the tongue of Alberg and bass fishing 101.
He wrote a wonderful book on the subject. The man is a consummate expert on fishing in this area, and what a great spot. What a crazy day that was. When we went out there, the wind was blowing and whipping your tongue. When you said the tongue, you got it right. We were right out on the end of it. And we just sat in his very warm room and listened to the wind blow outside and chatted about fishing. And now, over the last few years, look at the money these fishing tournaments are bringing into this area. Huh?
Yeah, one of these days we'll have to hook up with one of those fishing tournaments and go out there and do a little coverage of an actual tournament, because this area is getting so much recognition as a fishing site, and one thing that Mr. Brown was concerned about would be overfishing, and he thought we should limit the number of tournaments we have.
Yeah.
And you can't argue with that, because I know every year the perch we get
Smaller and
the
smaller.
Fishermen are getting smaller.
Yeah,
all the
we've
time.
talked about that before too.
Then on February 11th, we showed something that is an annual thing and has been for, almost from the very beginning. That's the Mission of Hope, a preview of the 2007 trip, and with the folks who were heading out, Sister Debbie and so on, and that's something we look forward to every year. We talk to them at the beginning and at the end.
Yeah, just and that we're doing this on January 8th, 2008. We just ran over the past, last night, yesterday, I guess we ran a Mission
On
of
Channel
Hope
15.
on Channel 15 in the Plattsburgh area. So
Yeah.
it's great to see what these kids do and to follow their careers after that, because it has a great impact, not only on the kids and on us, but all the other adults who go and volunteer as well. And now it's branched out into many, many schools, not just St. John's or Seton Catholic anymore. It's all the North Country schools and many colleges as well.
And it's certainly personalized the plight of the people in Nicaragua to us, because again this year they got pounded by the
Oh my.
hurricanes and the rainstorms and so on, and the flooding. And I know that this group, the Mission of Hope group, just brings a little sunshine in there, and they've kept a permanent year-round presence there, and that's important. We've discussed before that when they first started, my first reaction was, instead of sending all these kids down there and paying for all those airfares, why don't they just send them all the money? But they're doing it right. It's necessary.
From what we've learned, it is.
Yeah.
All the way around, it's a win-win-win.
Yeah. The air flight money is not wasted. Those kids go in there. They bring back a lot, and they bring back the stories to the community, and it changes their
And
lives.
they raise much of their own money for the trip, too.
Yeah.
That's the best part of it.
Yep. Next showed on February 18th, another I consider very important story. Inga Sapp, who was a member of Hitler's Youth as a youngster growing up in Germany. She was a member of Hitler's Youth, and she gave us some insight into her end of the story. I mean,
And her stories affect me to this day. Out of a clear blue sky, the stories she told, the things she read enter my mind, and I try to unravel what it must have been like as a child coming in and the stories about her father, right?
Yeah.
Who didn't want to acknowledge, and the bombs going off and trapping them in the buildings, and then what she's done with her life since then,
Yeah.
supporting the Adirondacks and skiing and
and to be able to admit it, and
absolutely.
because most people would just be, I never admit I was a member of Hitler Youth, but she's able to admit it and explain to people what caused, because she was brainwashed.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
from birth.
Yeah, not by her parents, but by society.
Yeah.
And people don't realize how society brainwashes our youngsters, and all you have to do is look at the way young girls dress right now compared to before Britney Spears came on the horizon, and you'll see, how people are brainwashed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's something that we're going to have to be packing up the the car for in the very near future auto show in Montreal.
Isn't it
Part
fun
one.
every year? Don't we have fun? I mean, we're talk about outsiders looking in. We go in there with a good friend, Dr. John Southwick, and we just, our tongues are hanging out through the whole thing. It's just amazing to see what they have to offer. It's a first-class operation, isn't it?
Oh, Jace, it's amazing. It's amazing. I was just looking at the website the other day, and it's just amazing. You know, it just runs from I think the 18th of January through the 27th. So the timing is good because it's the time of the year when there are tests going on at school. So there aren't a lot of sporting events at school scheduled, so I'm able to get away. The bad part is I have to work around my wife's January 22nd birthday. So
She better not go that day unless she goes with us, right?
Yeah.
And you get her in for free.
She ain't going to go
She's
in.
not going to do that.
But I did see John over the weekend and told him to
Get ready, John.
Get ready, we're going back because
Study up the new model so you've got something to talk about.
it's
great.
Yeah. Then we did a show that you set up with one of the folks who was instrumental at PHS and the phys ed and so on for many years, Thelma Douglas.
Talk about an icon and an institution having personally affected the lives of thousands of youngsters there, right there from the very outset at Beartown.
Yeah.
And so on and so on. And I was so delighted to see that Beartown could open during the Christmas holiday this year. Last year they had to close. It's been operating for 50 years and they couldn't open last year because they had no snow.
In 2006 there was no snow in December, and 2007 in December was almost record breaking. In fact, the whole January to December was record breaking for snow amounts. But in our northern tier here, I think 2007 was in the top 5 for snow.
Technically, and I wrote about it in a column for next week, at former Plattsburgh Air Force Base where they measured snow depths for a long time, the record was set in 1970 of 40 something like 49 inches. And this year in December, we smashed that record, and it was well over 54 inches for the snowiest December in record around the Plattsburgh area. And these are figures compiled by our good friend John Hart, whom we interviewed also during the year, meteorologist who lives in Peru. So that sets the record straight on the fact that in many areas of Clinton County, the snowiest December ever. Cool, huh?
Yeah. And my sump pump right now is reaping the harvest of that.
Oh, and mine is too. That's why we have to be that's something else during the ice storm, that we needed generators to keep those sump pumps going or we would have floated away. Yeah, we'll notice that, and they're talking about ice jams and so on. No ice jams up here though, right, this year so far?
Not so far.
Yeah. My place either.
Yeah, they were talking today about the Alsabo had a few jams in it today. But,
yep.
Then after that was March 4th, and on March 11th we did we always managed to squeeze out 2 shows at the Montreal Auto Show, and that was part 2 of that. And then on the 18th we did something that showed something that you did all by your lonesome, and you do it. They've done it for about 3 years now. The Saranac Winter Carnival. Saranac Lake.
Saranac Lake Winter Carnival, and chances are in 2008 I'll be on vacation and won't be able to do it.
No.
So maybe we get somebody else to do it. I normally go up there and enjoy the day with our son Dana and his wife Mary and the families, and run down the bottom of Garden Street Hill and take pictures as the parade goes by. This may be the first time I miss it. But anyway, it's always fun.
Are they still going to have it, even though you're not?
Oh, I think they probably
even though you're
will.
Not going to be there?
They may not even make it a blurb on the radar.
Well, I think it was last year, and there's been other years too, where the weather has been so mild that they wondered about being able to put up their ice castle.
And they got a truncated version of it last year, and it was really quite beautiful. The whole thing was nice. Yeah. We bring our long johns just in case.
Yeah. Okay, then we program that was done right here at this very spot. First of 3 we did with this gentleman, Mr. Larry Wolfe, who talked about his career in railroading
on Long Island and his interest here, and he's a really fascinating guy.
Yes, he is. And we didn't run out of things to talk to him. Originally, asked him to do a show with us based on the R.W. Nimke books, which I always pronounced Nimke, but since he knew the man
Yeah.
personally and,
I
and
guess
knows it's
I guess
Nimke,
we had to change that. Yeah.
I said I'll concede and change my pronunciation of this man. But this man did, Mr. Nimke did, I think, a total of 11 books. I think there's 7 volumes or 8 volumes or 9 volumes. But anyway, some have volume 1 and volume 2. But he did, and these are hardcover, inch
Thick
and a
books
half,
with
thick,
photographs, with
hundreds of
narration.
photos.
Yeah.
Just a
Fabulous.
And in addition to that, he's got photocopies of actual bills and memos and things that were it's just a great reading, and just I can't imagine the work that this man went into to compile all that, and then to put it out in such a classy way. He went to a tremendous amount of expense, and I doubt if he ever recouped his
Does that
investment.
sound familiar, Cal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just a tremendous.
Those were good shows.
Yeah, and you can find those on those people who do look at eBay, or even some of the bookfinder spots on the internet.
Yeah, even Amazon.
Yeah, you can find the Nimke books. Depending, where you look, the prices vary, but they are out there. And if you're looking, there's several of them that pertain particularly to our strip of the Rutland.
Yeah.
And that's obviously something that we're more interested in than we are once it crosses the lake and heads down south on the other side of the lake. But it's just a fascinating little collection. Another one that April 1st, even though it was April Fool's Day, this is a subject that there's nothing to laugh about, and it's just an important part of our history. And I'm so glad that Don and Vivian Papson sat down with us and did this program on the Underground Railroad.
It's something you end up talking about from time to time as kids do projects in school. And the general public learns more about the Underground Railroad. Or we'll hear somebody say, I think my house was a stopping place or a hiding place for the slaves as they headed north. You're right. It's powerful and in many ways sad and joyful part of our history that the people were able to come up through here and that they were sustained along the way. And these two folks are very well known in this area for the way they delve into this project. And boy, they had pictures for us, and they had charts, and they had photographs, and I was talking about a learning experience for both of us that day. That was great.
Well, and this is, I think, I'm just going to take a few of these that I think at this point just to that I would think are important historical. The Adirondack Railroad was nice, it's fun, a lot of nice pictures. CVPH emergency response, but you take the Plattsburgh idea, the history there. Inga Sapp, the history she provided. Then you take Larry Wolfe was fun, and he had some interesting things. And you take this Underground Railroad. These, I think, are just a separate little shelf, a separate little category.
Absolutely.
And those are the type that I really am humbled and proud that we could capture this and preserve it for future generations and make it available to the public.
And that brings us to the point where we would welcome suggestions.
Oh,
if
definitely.
you have somebody in your family or your neighborhood whom you know has an important historical story to tell, because they've lived 100 years or because they've lived during a major event somewhere here or in Europe or somewhere else, please let us know about that. And we thrive on the history, and there is a good historical thread through everything we've done down through the years, and that pleases me a great deal.
Yeah. And I was able to tack on with that program a little tour that Addie Shields did.
That was great too.
We started in the Keysville area and came right up to the Champlain, and we went from place to place to Keysville, Peru, Beekmantown, what's Plattsburgh region, Shazy, and up here to Champlain.
It was just
And-
amazing and
and-
wonderful. We love to be in her presence. She's well up into her 90s. We went to celebrate her 90th birthday.
2 years
When
ago.
that happened to almost going on 3 years ago. And she is a Clinton County historian and Beekmantown historian. And it's just, the history of this area is surges through her veins, doesn't it? It's just truly amazing.
I'm just in awe of people like Addie, and there's very few people like Addie who can retain all that.
Of course.
Obviously, through hometown cable, I've been exposed to so much history, but I can tell you I can find the DVD and let you watch it. But to retain that stuff is it's just incredible. It's just incredible. All right, after the Underground Railroad, we did our second program with Larry Wolfe, and on that one there, we concentrated on the Naimke books. Then we were back here again in the same spot to talk to a young author, I should say, not Arthur, but author, who still hasn't got that darn Ghosties book
The book
published.
is still at the publisher. I
hasn't
wish
got
our
it.
program were aired down in Utica so he could see it and say, hey, people want to get that Ghosties book. Well, all I can do is offer hope and offer to tell stories publicly whenever I can and write new ones. It's a lot of fun.
Then we did
John Hart,
a
a meteorologist from Peru.
And I happened to show it up here on the 22nd of April, which is Earth Day. I didn't realize that, but
How
Earth
about
Day
that?
showed
Makes
the
perfect sense,
great
doesn't it?
meteorologist John Hart.
Yep.
So that was fun and interesting, and we learned a little bit about how weather forecasting.
And I stay in touch with
recording is
John
done.
all the time. He gives me daily reports of what the weather's like there, how much snow and rain, and how much I enjoy weather, or enjoy at least knowing what's going on outside. So he and I stay in touch.
Then we made a return visit to the home of David Glenn, who's really become quite a historian there
Talk
since his
about
retirement.
another guy who knows history and writes extremely well about it, who lives on the Lakeshore Road next to the former Royal Savage, which his son is restoring back to what it was originally, right next door. Yeah, he's a very smart man.
Then on May 6th, I didn't realize it was that early in the year, we did a tour of the what has become known as the Plattsburgh International Airport. The tour of the airport.
Never ceases to be in the news every single day for good reasons and sometimes not so good reasons.
That's my hometown cable phone, but we'll let it ring. Hopefully they'll leave me a message.
Okay. Yeah, we'll do probably many more programs at that airport. Now they're trying to replace Big Sky with another airline. They've got several possible takers. By the time this is aired, maybe there will be a second airline operating. That's great.
Yeah. Well, in fact, I did get a note that I think maybe tomorrow, as we're taping this, there's going to be a press conference announcing more flights. I think it's another airline besides
Yes.
Allegiant that's going to be heading south. So there are more flights heading south, and of course the commuter line is what we're hoping for, a successful commuter line,
Exactly
and that looks like it's
It looks
close.
good to me. I've
Yeah.
had an inside track on that, and I'm sure it'll happen very soon.
Next, on May 13th, we did another program with another author, and this is a young lady who impressed me, Raquel Young.
Oh my.
And,
Oh my.
She's
What a wonderful story and sad story at the same time, wasn't it?
that was this one we got out of reading the Press Republican, and they'd done a story on her. So I tracked her down, and she agreed to sit down with us, and I ran that up here on Mother's Day, although we'd done it about
Isn't that
4 or 5 weeks
interesting?
ahead.
Talking about the wonderful little lady that she went to interview and then learned that she had died.
Yeah, she had put out this book, Are You Lucky, I think. Are You Fortunate? is
Are
the
You
name.
Fortunate,
Are
right.
You Fortunate? And it's basically a little picture book chronicling this lady who lived
In the hills of Mexico.
Yeah, and she was hoping to raise money for her. And just as the book was coming out and being published and getting out into the public, the lady died. They found her dead. But now she's using that money to help orphans and so on down in that Mexico.
What a sweet and wonderful person to do that. And her, she is of Hispanic lineage herself,
Yeah, she's Mexican, yeah.
and felt a personal responsibility for that. You know what that puts me in mind of? Very often we'll meet these people and do a show with them, a wonderful interview, and I'll never see them again until we talk about it at the end of the year. Isn't that? I'm glad you brought that one up especially. What nice people, she and her husband. And
Yep. Her husband, I think, is originally from around here. He works, I believe, he was a border patrolman, and went down there, working down there, met her, and he's brought her up here to the to the North Country. And this is a little sidelight important to me because my youngest son Caleb will be leaving Saturday to head to Texas for border patrol training.
Congratulations to Caleb. I had no idea till now. Great news.
Yeah, so he's
wonderful.
He's flying down to down to near Laredo. And
he'll speak Spanish when he comes back, I bet.
He'll have to speak some. Enough to ask the questions and understand what the answers are. Okay, then May 20th we showed the opening of the new location for the Clinton County Museum, and what do they call that? The Four Chimneys building?
The Four Chimneys building, and we've been there several times since. Mm-hmm. It's a wonderful building, and we are dear friends with many of the people who work there, and including those who volunteer their time. You know, that's something else we should talk about often and do. This volunteer spirit in the North Country is alive and well, and if it weren't for so many people giving so much time and experience, a lot of the things we've talked about on our show would never be able to survive.
No.
And it's nice to see all these museums opening and beginning to thrive out there on the former Plattsburgh Air Force Base.
Yep, it's definitely becoming a little hub of history, and hopefully they will flourish eventually. And I think we certainly have enough history in the area to support this, and this is something that you and I, do whatever we can to make sure all three of those little museums right there are known to the public. And that's about all we can do.
And I certainly hope that, in light of our little dissertation at the beginning of this program, that people support Hometown Cable, because we have so many significant historical events that you and I have already planned to live long enough to cover. One of them is coming up not much more than a year away in 2009, and another one in 2014. It seems closer than it did when we started talking about it, doesn't it?
Yeah, because we started talking about it over 10 years ago. In 97, I think. Certainly by 98, we did a couple shows on the Battle of Plattsburgh stuff. And right now, in 2008, Quebec, hopefully we'll hear more about what they're doing. But this is the year that they really pushed the Samuel D. Champlain quadricentennial, because he was there and well established before he came here in 1609. So, definitely in 1609 to 2009, we're hoping to have several events, and we hope to do some side shows, stories on
everything we do is a side show,
and
that'll be fun.
Yeah, and then the bicentennial, the battle of Plattsburgh, and the battle on Lake Champlain. And I really hate to see people get away from calling that what it was known for years, which was the Battle of Lake Champlain.
Battle of Lake Champlain, yeah.
It wasn't on the land was the Battle of Plattsburgh. On the lake was the Battle of Lake Champlain.
Yep.
At Plattsburgh Bay. May 27th, it was the Mission of Hope recap. And Sister Debbie wasn't there. I think the first time we
that's amazing.
Sister Debbie. She wasn't there for that, but we managed to get it done anyway, and very shortly we'll be doing our preview for Mission of Hope, and they'll be leaving within a month to head back down there to Nicaragua. But they make so many trips down there back and forth, smaller groups. They keep in constant contact.
Mm-hmm.
June 3rd, it was Larry Wolfe, number 3, and there we went to his area where he keeps his collection of stuff. And
that was fun. He had a lot of neat stuff, doesn't he? Memorabilia.
Yeah. We may have talked a little too long about each one of those little insulators or so on, but he has a lot to say, and it was a fun little collection he's got there. Then another annual thing that we do is the Business Expo. We showed that on June 10th, and North Country Chamber of Commerce always puts on a first-class show at the field house at Plattsburgh State, and last year was no exception. And we're looking forward to 2008's
Bigger
Business
and better.
Expo.
Yep.
And that's always an impressive event.
Mm-hmm.
And then on June 17th, we showed a program. Again, I just can't believe that it was that early in the year because it seemed just like yesterday that we did it. But there it is. We showed it on June 17th. And that was my father's uncle, my great uncle, Chet LaValle. And he's certainly a legend in the area as far as music. And what a charming fellow he is. And
At an institution, it doesn't look any different than he did 40 years ago when he was playing with Chet in the Four Notes, and it was fun to go to Beekman Towers and go up and talk to Chet for a while. And
92 years old and just
isn't that amazing? And show some video from one of the old performances, and that was just great. Chet's a good friend and a great guy.
And of course, father Bruce LaValle, and Chet married my father's mother's sister. And as Chet mentioned, his reception, and we mentioned
Right here.
We mentioned this last time you and I sat here. His reception was right here.
If these walls could talk, right?
Yeah, right here. This is where my grandparents lived in this house on the Ridge Road, and Chet LaValle had his wedding reception right here, and that that was news to me. So.
Yeah.
And on the June 24th, another one you did all by your lonesome. I was tied up elsewhere that day, and North Country Square has asked you to go down and do a program with them, and you did. And
that was fun. Met nice people and interviewed fun people, and saw that's a square dancing is alive and well in the North Country and many other areas as well. I thoroughly enjoyed that.
On July 1st, we showed a little program with our good friend Dr. Kruger at the Ticonderoga House.
John Kruger, yes.
And there's another one who just seems to retain the history.
A brilliant man. He studied history all of his life, came over here from Vermont and worked with the Clinton County Historical Museum and now at the Ticonderoga House. And he is a tremendous asset, not to mention a charming human being. And you're right, he is fluent with the details. And he can tell the story and mention dates and times, and I just stand there with my mouth open when I listen to people like that.
Yeah.
Just great.
He just, he's done, back when he was at the museum, he did several shows with us, and he hasn't skipped a beat there at the Ticonderoga. He's just an amazing wealth of knowledge, and he's somebody who didn't grow up here. He came here and has taken upon himself to learn the history, and by golly, he has. And he's
We're going to have, this is information that you may not know yet, but of course they have to start working a year ahead of time to plan for the events surrounding the celebration of the Battle of Lake Champlain, the battles of Plattsburgh, and we're going to have another...
I want to caution you not to... I noticed the last time we did a show here, every time we touched that table...
we hear a click on the microphone.
Yeah.
You'll know me, these busy fingers. But the fact that we're going to have what I think will be a tremendous round table discussion in Israel Green's Tavern, which is downstairs in the Trinity Episcopal Church. We did a wonderful tour of the church also. And we're going to have a round table discussion on different facets of the battles of Plattsburgh and Lake Champlain with Keith Herkelo and with John Kruger and with Jack D., who plays Israel Green during that time period. And we'll have about 4 people around a table that we'll talk about some historical fur flying. There'll be a lot of fun. Of course, there are differences of opinion. That's why Keith wrote his recent book about the battles of Plattsburgh, confirming some of the information that was written in history books by the late Alan Everest, who was a professor at Plattsburgh State. And we learn every year. We learn new things every year. That's yeah. John's terrific. We're delighted to have him here.
And we followed up John Kruger with one of our favorite authors, Clyde Rabideau Sr. And just, and
he's written a lot of books that a lot of people haven't heard about, but he loves facts and figures, and he loves to delve into the genealogy of names, especially the Rabideau name. He's really done a great job at it, hasn't he?
Come up with over 70 spellings at this point of the original Rabideau and just amazing the work he has done with cemeteries and with different subject matter. He's just
Talk about good North Country stock, huh?
and he has definitely contributed his share to posterity in the,
Oh,
in
sure,
the North
great.
Country.
And with the with the cemeteries, and continuing the McLennan work and all the other stuff,
Yeah.
just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, he followed up on what McClellan's done many years ago, and yeah. So after that, another one of our annual treks. We went to the North Country Chamber of Commerce annual car show, and that's always fun, especially if it's a nice sunny day. That's usually
Yeah.
around the weekend after Father's Day, right around graduation weekend, is when they usually have that. But this year the weather was great, and we saw some great vehicles there, and
Met some nice people.
yeah. And unfortunately, or fortunately, whatever the case may be, we never seemed to cover the whole thing.
Oh no, we get waylaid.
We're gonna devote
Yes,
some
we
time,
do.
But we did see some nice vehicles, and as you said, nice people.
Oh yeah.
Because most of these people who have hobbies like that are good people. They get into it, and
Yeah.
especially when you're talking about their hobby, they love to
Oh sure.
they love to do that. Then we made a return trip over to Isle of Mont to look at the Woodman Youth Camp, and saw our buddy Dale Gagno over there, and along with Rodney Barber, the state manager, who was originally from this area and left the area and came back as the state manager. And that youth camp is a fun place to visit.
Glad to
And,
see it thriving.
Yeah, and it's going to be doing even better this coming year. But
Right next door to St. Anne's Shrine.
yeah, it's just a great place, particularly on a sunny day. Then one of the sadder things that we did, but again important, I think. You can't overemphasize the importance of this memorial service we did for Corporal LaForest up at the Air Force Base.
Talk about a moving and emotional experience for me and for you and for everybody that was there. Those are, once again, the images from these shows filter back every now and again as you try to process how very powerful it was. And Senator Betty Little walking over to that woman and kneeling down and telling us later that she couldn't say a word. She couldn't even speak because she was so overcome with emotion.
Well, her husband had lost a brother in Vietnam,
absolutely.
and this brings back
Just
horrible memories to her. And I just feel for these families, but for forever, we've sent our sons off to war. Now we're sending our sons and daughters off to war, and it's so hard on the families, particularly when somebody is lost like that there. And the least we can do is honor those folks and pay tribute to them.
Absolutely. That's a good thing. That was a very special day.
On August 5th, we put a little double header up. We did a quick look at the Plattsburgh 4th of July Mayor's Cup weekend parade. And when we left there, we were going to go to the antique gas engine and tractor show, and we did at the
What
at
a
the
day that
fairgrounds,
was.
but it kept getting drizzle and
The
drizzle.
wind she blows and the rain she comes down, and you and I looked at each other and said,
I don't want to ruin that camera right there.
That's exactly right, yeah.
So I did see a few of the guys after and apologize humbly, because that's a fun thing to do.
We've
and we
enjoyed
try
it so much through the
we try
years.
to cover that, but this year last year in 2007 we weren't able to do it, and golly, we're going to try again in 2008.
Oh, yeah.
So make sure we have good weather when you have this. And that's usually the weekend following the 4th of July weekend, that antique gas engine show, just
I love it.
tractor show. Just
I love
such fun. But the double header that we showed on August 5th included that Plattsburgh parade, which is always a fun event. And then we took a little tour to it was only about this high at the time, Matt and Colleen Bell's corn maze. And
Boy, he got some good press with that this year,
he
didn't
did,
he?
yeah.
I was proud of him every time I saw him. And
even
then Rolla Parker did
even Rolla got lost out in his corn maze.
Oh, did a commercial that local people in Malone may not know what the heck we're talking about, but
Well,
they probably get that down there. The ones that are on that on their cable system might see that commercial down there.
Yeah, they show the show. A chance to see the show.
But it was good all the way around, and he's such a nice young man.
And I'm so glad that it was so highly successful. I saw him at the annual Roxy Dumas Luann Dragoon soccer tournament in Moores, and he said the crowds they've had was just
no
tremendous,
kidding, really good all the way around.
Hundreds of people.
No great casualties of people who weren't seen till spring. Rollins the only one that couldn't get out. Huh?
I think they only lost 3 people out there, and they figure in the springtime they'll find them.
It was hard to us to vision that when we were walking through the very low corn, but later on, I guess it was terrific.
Yeah.
I wanted to go back and never did, but we heard about it.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, I did go back and shot a commercial for him. As we got
yeah,
closer
you
to
did.
the time,
Yeah, right.
And got some real nice pictures there, including he always shows up everywhere. Our buddy Bob Cheeseman was there.
Oh, I see Bob about once every 2 weeks, whether I need it or not. I don't know if you know it or not, but he is now the town of Chazy historian. Nobody else would take the job. Things fell through, and all of a sudden he's the man. And I clapped him on the back and say, it couldn't happen to a better person. What? Talk about another institution, right?
Well, I just think that it was a mistake to make this guy the historian. I haven't seen Bob or Staub Spiegel, the town supervisor, yet, because the historian always had Bob Cheeseman there to help him. Who's Bob Cheeseman going to have to help him? So
he was telling me how much time he spends there, because you know how passionate he is and everything he does, and he's always got that smile on his face. And talk about friends that make you feel good to talk to. I made my poor wife go up and down the same grocery aisle 15 times the other night because Bob and I were telling tall tales, and he was telling me about what he's trying to do with the office up there. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. Who's going to help Bob?
He doesn't have a Bob Cheeseman to help him, so he's up the creek. So.
Yeah,
but
good guy.
Yeah. So anyway, He was in the Bell's corn maze ad. Trekking through there with his camera. Altona History and Parade on August 12th. Sesquicentennial was what they did, and 150 years of Altona history, and Mrs. Coolidge was so great to sit down and chat with us.
And you went back and talked to her again, didn't you?
Yeah, there were some things that I thought that
should be added.
Maybe we should cover, and
that's great. Yeah, that was fun. That's always fun. Altona's a lot of history, a lot of great geological formations in the Altona Flat Rock region. A lot of good blueberries shipped out of here. We learned a lot that day too.
Yeah, and then another one that you and I really enjoyed doing. Even though we enjoy doing it, we still need money, but really enjoyed doing it.
Yeah, don't be so happy about this whole thing. Yeah.
This was really a chore to do this one here.
Yeah.
The Stonehouse Vineyard with Phil Favreau.
My.
Phil was such a upbeat,
I keep saying guy. I'm going back to buy a couple of bottles of wine and never get back up there again.
Well, on your way home, swing around.
Yeah, swing around. What a good guy and what a great attitude, considering everything that he's been through physically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what a great spot with his building and his outbuildings with all the stone, and how they worked as a family to put this thing together, and how they don't charge nearly enough for a bottle of wine, but
$10 a bottle, and
isn't that incredible?
If he's lucky, he'll break even.
That was another good learning experience too, to know that there are entrepreneurs who do something like that. Yeah. I never would have known it if we hadn't gone there that day.
Yeah. So that was a fun show to do, and he's just a great guy. And then speaking of great guys, we loaded up. We went to Essex and met up with this fella and brought him on down to Ticonderoga. Went to the Cartoon Museum, and we brought Sid Calci along with us.
Oh my! Another wonderful experience. And every time I see one of his cartoons, in the newspaper, he puts one in almost every week.
Burdick. You're talking about Burdick?
Yeah, Burdick.
Yeah.
In Lake Champlain Weekly, and he's such a bright guy and a good artist. And Sid Calci, what can you say about Sid? Just another one of those tremendous institutions.
He's 88 years old. He'll be 89, and
still draws just as youthfully as he did with Harvey comic books way back in the 1940s, huh?
Yep. And this is one of the things that I feel so grateful that Hometown Cable has allowed me to get to know people like Sid Calci and Arto Monaco and Ozzie Sweet, and I think I've said this before. These are icons, and these are great people. And,
Bigger than life.
Yeah, and
Humble and yet bigger than life. And Sid Couch is a perfect example. You've done some things to please him tremendously and to please all the North Country, and it's just so deserving to be able to throw that first pitch out and have those little ceremonies down there and up there in Montreal, and it is great. It's great to meet a guy like him, and and his wife Ruth, who's also a tremendously charming person.
Yeah. So they're down south right now visiting with their son, but he'll be back up in the spring, and hopefully in good spirits, because he's a great guy. And hope he lives forever. Then September 2nd, we showed another show, something that we look forward to every year, and some years we've dodged raindrops, but this year the weather was great. It was the Alberg Bluegrass Festival, Lake Champlain Bluegrass Festival.
Talk about bigger and better every year. I don't know if that field's going to be big enough to hold them in 2008, but they do it, and bluegrass has come into its own again in this country, and we have so much wonderful local talent, don't we, from this area? And a lot of those groups from northern New York and Vermont just blow us away. It's always fun every year.
It is. It's just something that, one of those things I mark on my calendar with a smile, and knowing that,
Yep.
we're going to be there. And then took us quite a few trips, and I took a few more trips there than you did, but we ended up getting it done. And a 90-minute program turned out to be an hour and 58 minutes, but it's the most talked about thing that we did during the year 2007, and that's the Noble Wind Farm construction.
Yeah. What can you say that isn't redundant after going down there? And never a day passes that somebody doesn't meet me on the street and say, "What are those things turning yet? Are those things turning yet?"
This is the 8th of January, and last week, Thursday probably, I was doing a volleyball game at Ellenberg, and asked my buddy Mike Boyer, I said, "Are they turning yet?" He says, "Not yet." He said, "I look every day and they ain't turning yet." His brother Paul's got a couple on his farm, and so they're hoping that they'll be turning shortly, but they're not turning yet. But once they do, that's money for every one of those people that have those on their property up there. And
everybody who watches this program knows exactly what we're talking about, so we don't have to spend a lot of time here regurgitating the facts. We were so privileged and pleased to be able to be there from the beginning, watch those things going up from the ground to the top and look up. Talk about in awe with your mouth open. Everybody mentions those two little guys up there with that crane coming down with that big thing, and they didn't get crushed. And it was a tremendous experience, because nowhere is there a program quite like ours. Certainly no other medium here in the North Country covered it as extensively as we did, and we developed a great relationship with the Noble people, and that hopefully will continue as these wind farms increase here.
Yeah, hopefully we've got one that we've started, and as soon as the blades start turning, we're going to follow up with a show on the aftermath of the
interviewing the farmers, the townspeople, the political figures involved, and everybody. It should be another good one.
Yeah, and we got some footage already of moving those big transformers.
Oh, my. So, that's in the can, ready to go.
Ready to go as part of that next show. Then our fort tour. We started our fort tour. And
wasn't that great? And something we have anticipated ever since we started doing this program. And it's embarrassing to tell the audience that as many years as I've lived up here, I had never been to Fort Ticonderoga.
Well, this is Crown Point.
And this is
first one is Crown Point.
The first one is
the
Crown Point.
The following week is Ticonderoga.
Yeah, but we wanted to do the tour, and
we can talk about Ty first. Nobody's going to know my calendar.
Well, it doesn't matter.
Talk about Ty.
Yeah, either way, it was just wonderful to meet these people, to take the cook's tour, to do the interviews, and to let another little slice of this is all part of a very important part of North Country history.
Well, and the thing about these forts is, particularly with Crown Point and Fort Ty and Fort William McHenry, all three of them, it goes on before the Revolutionary
War.
We're talking history of the French and Indian War that was commemorating the 250th anniversary of this era right now that we're in 2007, 2008, and so on. So the 250th anniversary of these battles that were fought in the French and Indian War. And we had those great reenactors at Crown Point. I just wish you and I had more time that day. We went there and we got 90 minutes done. But boy, we could have done 3 shows easily.
You could spend 90 minutes with many of the individuals who are reenactors, and that's another thing I think about. College professors, doctors, athletes, John Q. citizens bring their families with the little kids reenacting, and these people. I've gained an appreciation for reenactors in 2007 that I never had before. Even though I respected them for what they do and thought that was a fun game they played, they're serious about it. And we interviewed these people, and they are so serious that this one gentleman from the Midwest learned the Indian language, the Native American language of the person he was representing, and he talked in that language when we interviewed him. I thought that was so neat.
And what they will do is they will find another reenactor who has learned other similar languages, and they'll try to communicate with each other. Rather than speak English, they'll try to communicate in the native tongues. And it's just you have to really be impressed with these people. And if you get a chance to go to a reenactment, go, and don't just watch the bang bangs and the little
walk around, talk to the people.
Talk to these people, because these people know a lot more than just how to shoot that gun.
And they sure do appreciate it when you say thank you for what you're doing, because many of them make their own clothing, buy their own equipment, pay for their own gas.
It's all voluntary,
It's all voluntary, and some come from, as we found, thousands of miles to be there.
Well, this was a big one.
This was one of the biggies. There were a couple of big ones, and that was one of them.
Yeah. And then the following week, it was Fort Ticonderoga, and again, I think while this stuff was going on at Crown Point, they had stuff going on at Fort Ty and at Fort William McHenry, all coinciding, because these things are all happening in the real world 250 years ago at the same time, or in a one right after the other. So then after we went to Crown Point, we did go down to Fort Ticonderoga, and
nice tour. Really nice tour.
Very nice tour. And it's, like you, I've never been down to Fort Ty. I always wanted. It's sitting right there. It's like the people in New York City who never looked at the Empire State Building.
Yeah.
Fort Ty is there. It's just 83 miles away from my door right here. So it's very accessible, easy to find.
And they're changed. If you haven't been there in 20 years, or your kids are grown and you haven't been back, it changes all the time. Look at the building they were building. Beautiful.
Constantly
go back.
Upgrading and trying to make it as authentic as possible. Then on September 30th, we showed the Battle of Plattsburgh Parade, which is always a fun event, and just amazing the work that they go into putting on that whole weekend. But then that parade was always first class.
It was they say better every year. This one was absolutely better every year, and we've been rained on a few times, but this one was another terrific one. And that's another one of those things. When I watch those professional musical groups that are imported here from Canada and elsewhere, at the end where they all get together and do their thing in front of the reviewing stand, it's emotionally overwhelming. Now that we have our own policeman's fife and drum, bagpipe group here, it's great to hear the pipes. Great to see a lot of the local people getting involved with reenacting. And that's a big part of it. If you can dress your people up in the streets in the old-time clothes, it makes a tremendous impact, not only on the other local citizens, but on visitors and tourists. And so this Battle of Plattsburgh, so-called Battle of Plattsburgh events week or weekend, every year it builds up to what I call a fever pitch, waiting for that big anniversary on September 11th, 2014. So that's always great fun.
Yep, and then October 7th, we do so much coverage of that Battle of Plattsburgh stuff, we can't put it all on in one show. So on the 7th, October 7th, included the Culver Hill, and I think visits to the museums, and show what they were doing as part of the Battle of Plattsburgh Commemoration.
Aren't you happy that finally we're pointing out to people that it was more than just that battle in Plattsburgh Bay, that it started up in Canada, came down through not very far from where you live, right here? And you know, there were skirmishes along the way that were very important, not the least of which is Culver Hill, and they finally uncovered the monument, and now they're talking about building a beautiful park behind them, moving the monument back and making a nice park there.
Yeah, and one of
And Dewey Tavern, and
one of Dr. Kellogg's booklets that have been reprinted by the Historical Association. He refers to coming up here and talking to the people who were here. Would remember, of course, he was in the latter part of the 19th century that Dr. Kellogg was around. But he talked to the people who were here in the early part of the 19th century, and where my father lives, about a little over about half a mile from here. He talked to a Moore's family that lived there, and they talked about the troops that were on Route 9, which is just as we're sitting here, less than a mile to the west of here, and how they marched down, and how some troops had come through here and marched their way on this ridge road on their way to there, and so there are first-hand accounts, and I think it is important that we tie in that history of what happened on September 11th with what started to occur on August 28th, and what occurred and how it made its way, because the ground battle is what really was the Battle of Plattsburgh. And then when Prevost came down with we had the sea battle, the water battle on the lake. That battle was decisive and ended up downing, and the others went back. But if it wasn't for what happened on the ground, who knows what could have happened out there on the lake. So both are important. If they hadn't lost on the lake, I think the ground troops would have stayed and done more. But when they saw that their ships were destroyed,
it was all connected.
Yeah, so,
and very, very significant in terms of who we are and what country we're located in these days, and that dates back to the other stuff as well.
Yeah. Then we went to Fort William Henry in Lake George.
Wasn't that great?
It was great, and we ran into two very knowledgeable people. The first one we talked to was very, very helpful and couldn't do enough for us. The second one, at first, was a little put off by us, but then once he got into it,
he warmed up to it.
Yeah,
we were interlopers on his field of action for a while, but that turned out very well. Another great day.
Yeah, and many of us have gone to Lake George and never bothered to visit that fort.
And I'm one of those. Never been inside the fort before.
And it's definitely worth a trip and to learn the history of
absolutely
what carved out this nation. And then on the 21st of October, we put on our final program on the 2007 Battle of Plattsburgh Commemoration. And on that particular tape, our DVD, I put on the first thing that took place, which was the ceremony up here at Dewey Tavern last year. And also preceded it with the last thing that happened, which was John Rock and the boys and Roger Harwood and everybody going over to Crab Island. And that's such a great thing that they do there and have done there over the years.
Yeah, hats off to all those people, especially. We made some nice trips over there.
Yeah, and that's something, again, that we look forward to every year, is that little visit to the Crab Island, even though getting there isn't always fun because of the water. This year the waves were kind of high. Then we went back to the CVPH and we went to their medical arts building, and it's just amazing what they have done.
The expansion and changes, and there are changes happening right now as we speak. As most people know, we tried to go in the Beekman Street side of the medical center for a long time, and yeah, it's tremendous. There's a big as we're recording this. It's great. It's difficult to get new nurses. You see commercials on the air all the time on television and hear them on radio, trying to recruit people to get into the nursing business. We have some tremendous nursing programs in the area. To get doctors to come and settle in Plattsburgh and keep them here is very difficult. But this medical center has made a name for itself, and its campus is spread out far and wide away from the actual hospital grounds. If Miner knew when he got started back there in 1926, he'd be thrilled and surprised, wouldn't he?
Yeah, Yeah, and Mike Hillebrand is always so up to date.
Just
and
tremendous.
Just,
Another great asset.
Yeah, just knows inside and out what's happening there, and is so willing to share that with us. That, the hospital. Very few years that you don't walk into those doors for some reason or another to visit a family member, and
Yep.
if you're unfortunate enough, you're there yourself. But so that hospital is such an important part of our community, and it's become more regionalized.
Regional medical center
over
for
the
sure.
past 10 to 15 years. It's just,
Oh, yes.
it's just tremendous. And then another one that we didn't enjoy doing, but we went anyway, was our visit with Leonard and actually known as Peck and Jane Sample at the Rainbow Wedding and Banquet Hall. And this is such an interesting story of a couple people that just.
It's another one that people comment about. You know why? Because they're local people. They're down to earth people who started by scratching the earth and worked their way up from through restaurants and bars into a tremendous asset to the North Country. And that's another program that people really commented a great deal. I saw you at PAX. I saw you at PAX. Somebody said there was a big, now we're doing this on January 8th, 2008. There was a big event there, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago or something.
Well, New Year's they have a big event every year.
Somebody went up there and said, the first thing we did was look around for you, Gordy. We knew you'd be there. You didn't make it. I said, I'm sorry. Well, you had a big event up there yourself, didn't you?
I had a nephew that
married up there. That's
had a reception up there.
Reception, yeah.
Yeah, so, just amazing what they've done, and it's a showcase area for the in our Tri-County area. There's not a place.
Nothing quite like that, and now they're going to build a motel. That blew me away when he took outside and pointed right over there. We're going to do a motel, so we wanted to take people home after the reception.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah,
that was great.
Great story. And another one of we've done a lot with the people of that World War II era, and we got two Rodneys together, Rodney Wright and Rodney Guerin.
Oh my!
And sat down and talked about their war history, and got to thank both of those guys. Rodney Wright was at the Battle of the Bulge, and Rodney Guerin talking about the things that he had done, and just so important to get the history.
Essential to get those stories told while we still have these guys around, because those guys from that time era are all in their 80s and many well up into their 90s. So it behooves us to get as many of them as we can.
Yep. And again, Rodney Wright, I knew about. I've been trying to get together with him for over a year and a half now. And Rodney Guerin, a lady that told me about it and said, you got to get together get his story, Ruth Colgan, and she said you got to do his story. And
Ruth, yes.
And so we need more people like that to come out and say, hey, this person's got a story,
yep.
And then talk to that person to make sure they're going to be willing to talk to us after.
Exactly, sure, yeah.
A lot of people have stories but aren't willing to
share,
get out and talk
for many reasons.
In public like this.
For many reasons.
Then we went to the J. Montpelier's area for Hot Rods for Hospice, and did a little program there that I tacked on with one of the first part of your trip to Georgia this year. So that was on November 18th.
That's good. Calvin told me a long time ago, if you're going to go on vacation, take a camera with you. Let us know what happened. And people find, Ma and Pa Kettle go to town kind of stuff, a little bit of video from here and there. And we had a good time this year. Yeah.
And then another thing that we found very interesting was the Legion Air arrival, their first flight out of the airbase.
And they have been so successful, and we could tell that they would be just based on that experience that night. Talking with their one charming young public relations gal, talking with people behind the counter, and as we saw, I did believe it was today's newspaper, the Press Republican, on January 8th, the fact that we've already had more flights with the Legion booked than they had at the Clinton County Airport during an entire year previously. So they're very happy to be here. And hopefully that second airline will get there. That was fun when I had to leave and you stood up in the window and watched the plane take off. That was kind of neat. It was like the first rocket ship going to the moon, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I figured it was important to capture that moment.
Absolutely important. Historical moment.
Yeah, and of course right now it's flights to specific locations. But again, as we get into more commuter service, that airport it's just such a great location.
Yeah.
People from Montreal couldn't believe you get off the Northway and
And you're there.
it's there. You know.
And you park. And guess what? I heard also that a few days ago. Now they're going to have to expand the parking lot. They had over 300 cars in that parking lot over the recent holiday period. Now, isn't that a...
Well, they're going to have to get the people who are long term away from the terminal.
That's
now.
what I mean,
Yeah.
isn't that? But that's kind of a neat thing to have happen so soon.
Yes.
So
yeah.
we're delighted to have them there. It's a unique terminal and one of the nicest of its kind we've ever seen.
Yeah, and Bob Hines and all the county
And the
legislators
committee who
and
worked
Mike
so hard on
Zerlo
it.
and all the people just should really
Tremendous.
be proud of themselves.
Especially against a lot of negative input from the beginning. And when Big Sky opted to leave, there's still people who wagging their heads saying, I told you so, I told you so, the thing's going to close. There won't even be anybody there next year. I have a almost profane reaction to that because it just ain't true. There's too many people who put their heart and soul into it, and too many people from here and from Canada, our neighbors to the north as far away as Quebec City, who are investing in that, saying this is the best thing since sliced bread. We're willing to drive down from Quebec City just for the convenience.
Yeah. So that's hopefully a start of a big success story. We got, according to my watch here, we got maybe 5 minutes left on this tape, so we're into December. So
Well, we've done well.
then I showed it earlier in Plattsburgh, but on December 2nd, I showed the J Bridge, covered bridge story.
Isn't that great to see that story finally come to fruition? See the J Bridge rebuilt and turned into a walking bridge, and the new Fireman's Memorial Bridge right next door. Just great. That's a wonderful story.
Yeah. So and the covered bridge, the history in the area. So it was a good story to do. And we appreciate Supervisor Douglas.
Oh, by
thinking
all
of us
means, and his whole
getting us
family
involved.
way back when.
Yeah. Then we did another one that I enjoyed doing with Marc Barry and Father Boucher and America
Special
Comes
for
to
both of
Vermont.
us, even to you, because you knew Father Boucher for a long time before you introduced him to me. But another person who had a tremendous impact on both sides of the lake. And if anybody doesn't know about St. Anne's Shrine and the history of this wonderful man, please do. And Marc Barry, what can we say?
Yeah.
Talk about a guy who's been involved from PIDC when after the airbase closed right up to the present time. It still has a tremendous personal interest in what happens in this area on both sides of the lake and up in Canada as well.
Yeah. Mark, he definitely chose a good subject for his first book, and of course, our old buddy Larry Paquette and Celine Paquette were married at St. Anne's Shrine, and I think it was Mark who got up and said that Larry waited till the toll was taken off the toll bridge
Come on, I didn't hear that story
before
before.
he got married. But
Oh, that's great.
I do know that without Marc Barry, there probably would be a toll on that bridge right now.
Yeah,
Back
you're
when
absolutely
when
right.
that bridge was being built, he was president of the local Northern Tier Chamber of Commerce, and they, petitioning Senator Stafford and so on, because they were talking about making it a $4 or $5 toll across there.
Mhm.
And since building a bridge, if you're going to charge that much toll, people aren't going to be able to afford to use it. So they fought to get rid of that high toll, and ended up no toll. So, which is better than we had anticipated, because I think we were paying 50 cents when it came in. But
Yeah.
it just opened it up. Before it used to be like almost going into another country because you had to stop and pay that toll when you cross
Now
that
it's their
bridge.
daily thoroughfare for
Yeah.
people who go across
Yeah.
the bridge back and forth, and I know you take it quite often. And
Yeah, I was there.
Mark's miracle book, I don't mind promoting it because it's wonderful subject matter, Father Boucher.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen the book, go look for it somewhere.
Yeah, you can call Mark. It's worth reading. Definitely an outstanding book.
And he's not making money off it either.
No.
That's the best part of it.
No, it's all going to Father Boucher's favorite charities. And then, speaking of books, we
Loaded toe!
went to Larry and Jill's home, Larry Gooley and Jill McKee, and about their latest enterprise, which is a fantastic little North Country catalog, and he's selling
Ambitious
books.
project and
Selling
great
books.
people.
Selling-
He's written 7 books, I think he said so far, and he continues to do that. But this project where it's enterprising because they're They're buying books and reselling them on their website, but not just books, but North Country products of all kinds.
Yeah.
And if you want to find out what that's all about, you will never forget once you hear the name Bloated Toe, because it sticks in your mind. BloatedToe.com will take you right to their website. Get a copy of the free catalog and just see the North Country products.
It's a thick catalog.
Like we do, they love to promote the North Country, and if they can make a buck doing the same thing, that's great. That was a fun time. Just aired recently down in Plattsburgh.
Yeah, and then on the 23rd, I finally showed the first of two shows. The second one was done on January 6th of this 2008 on the local history that my bookshelf that you and I sat through and pulled out.
Your collection grows. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I've gotten a few within the last.
Oh, that's great.
So it just showed it was available in the area as far as books on the local history.
Sure.
And then we did on December 30th, our show we did with Nat Light. It was a interesting history with music and with military, and just an interesting individual. And that was a nice sitting down with that gentleman. He's in his upper 80s, I think, right now.
Yeah, he's a wonderful guy, and he shoots his age on the golf course. And he and Teresa are now in Florida. A lot of people head down there, and they get on this bus detail, and they put their car on some kind of a vehicle, and they take the car, the car's transported down to Florida for them, and they're treated like royalty on this bus all the way down from New Jersey. And what a great deal! And I spent New Year's with a lot of other people, including his brother, Dr. Alan Light, and who was at the president of Clinton Community College way back in the beginning, and they're wonderful people as well. So
okay,
that was a pretty good year, huh?
I'm worried about that tape running out, so we'll talk on the last one that we did one of the last shows we did in 2007. That's going to be shown in early 2008. That's Lucky Clark and his history of Sheridan, and that was a good show to get done because Lucky's had some health problems in the last year, and we've been after him for a long time. He's shown us his lighthouses over the years, and it was great to sit down with Lucky and his son Rob.
I've told so many people about that equipment in there that just blew me away.
Yeah,
we had a good year, Calvin.
Yes, we did, and that tape I bet you is very close to.
Is it?
Hopefully, it won't run out right as mid-sentence here, but yeah, I think it's important for us once in a while to sit down and just look back and see what we've done, and
who knows where we're going to be next time in 2008 for our little corner.